This is the show that has a proven track record.
You have to be very, very basketball savvy and basketball smart when it comes to playing in the NBA.
This is a show that has a real approach to sports.
They're going to be fine. This is no big deal to anyone.
This is a show that's not going to give you the sweet stuff.
I still tend to think they'll be fine because that model manifested itself last year.
This is the award-winning show that's giving you the truth, just like they always have.
What are we talking about?
Where are we at in society today?
Listen and learn.
This is Delay of Game, the Sports Talk podcast.
Ryan, I just want to say I really admire the hard work you have given to the J School. I don't know if you getting the recognition you deserve, but through my time there at the J School, there's no one that dedicated themselves and put as much effort into KRNU and making that a product to be proud of. And you really did a great job with it. And I wasn't the one that started the delay of game. That was Josh. I was lucky enough to have him ask me to help him co-host that show. But what you did with it. It was really cool to watch and see, listen to this show and see how you guys have handled it. It's been cool to see that the legacy of Delay of Game continue along once you're out the door. I really admire you for that and thank you for that. And I just want to commend you on a job well done through your time there at the J School.
It's now time for a little R&R.
Ryan's rant, that is. Back to the explosion of a topic that Ryan has in store for today's podcast.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Take it out!
There's something that's just really bothering the guy, and now you're about to find out what it is.
You gotta be kidding me! Nobody's tackling anybody! Do it live!
There's some absurd things going on in the world of sports, and Ryan's pretty fired up about them.
Hello? You kidding me?
They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
That's not true!
And now, here's the original Delay of Game produced, Ryan's Rant.
So that was Ben McLaughlin on May the 4th. That clip that we played before the rant intro. Ben McLaughlin on May the 4th. My last day on KRNU Radio in Lincoln as host of Delay of Game on the radio. Can't believe it's coming up on a year since then. We've only got, I think, 4 months until then. And I play that clip because I guess I never really realized everything that I was doing with Delay of Game and KRNU and trying to build all of that up, and because that's what I was more concentrated on, was just building it up and making it fresh and making it new and keeping Delay of Game at a standard and at a level to where people could look at that show or look at the station and be like, we can listen to that because it's well produced, there's good content, there's, I guess, intros and clips and whatever that grab your attention. And that's really how I wanted to put Delay of Game together. And when I left, I felt like I wasn't done, like there was still more work to be done. And when I created the route, I thought, this is good for me because I'm forcing myself to start from scratch, and that was a really good thing for me to see that I could prove to myself that I can start from scratch and create a show from scratch with all new elements and different segments of the show in which we bring you content. And when I had the chance to bring back Delay of Game and turn it into a podcast, it was kind of a thankful sense. And I listened to that clip a couple of times before I played it for you all, and it was like, yeah, I can keep doing this. I just have to continue to stay creative and think of new stuff. And so the podcast is going to, I'm going to try and keep it like it was originally with Delay of Game, but I also want it to kind of emulate what the route was. And my point of this rant here is that podcasts, people nowadays, everybody does podcasts. If you look around there, you go on YouTube. I mean, I've even seen it when I'm uploading podcasts for the route and soon to be for Delay of Game. When I'm looking, I see there's podcasts all over the place. They're everywhere because everybody wants to do them because that's the thing to do, because they think, oh well, this is gonna, somebody's gonna see this and I'm gonna rise and claim to fame, and it's just an outlet for people to talk about things. And I think that's a misunderstanding, because for me, podcasts are more for those people who, one, don't really want to deal with commercials, even though commercials, we all know, are very important. It's advertising, it brings in money. But you feel rushed in a certain amount of time between commercial periods, and podcasts are for really those who don't want to deal with the commercials and just want to keep going, discussing one subject or a couple of subjects. For me, as I said, that's kind of reason number one. Reason number two is I don't necessarily have a job that allows me to go on the air and tell you about what's going on in sports. And kind of interestingly enough, with Brent BonFleur segment that we'll have in the show today, that's what's really going on with Brent BonFleur. This is what's really going on in sports. This is how we see it. This is how we think it is. And we want to share our opinions with you. And a lot of things in the sports world, a lot of topics, a lot of other subjects that deal with things that happen, drama infiltrates them, and it becomes drama, sports show, episode, whatever. And it's like, no, just can we take out the drama? Can we just take out the drama and have a real conversation about sports? That's what the purpose of the route and Delay of Game are, to bring you a real approach to sports, a real look at what's actually going on, what's actually happening in Major League Baseball, in the NBA, in the NFL, wherever it may be. That's what my goal is for this podcast. I guess that's what drives me to continue to make these podcasts and crank them out every week, to tell you, let's settle down here. Let's not start freaking out about something that's happening. Let's actually analyze this and have a real approach to the scenario, not just, going around waving our arms up in the air like a crazy person. Yeah. Let's not do that here. Let's settle down and figure this out, not just going nuts over it. So hopefully you will enjoy these podcasts as much as I do. And I know I am looking forward to them, because I'm bringing in my two other colleagues. Yes, two, not one, the two other colleagues. One of them was with me on that May 4th when Ben McLaughlin uttered those great encouraging words. It's Brent BonFleur. And Brent, I know we took a long time to create the route and figure that out and build it up. And now with Delay of Game, we kind of have two building blocks in which we can go forward with and produce this podcast. And I know I'm very excited to continue to do it. But do you agree that like in the sports world now, everything is just it's dramatized? I mean, even a guy like for example, like Colin Cowherd, he's the closest person in the sports talk world that I guess takes a real approach to things and doesn't, freak out and, say...
You don't think Colin Cowherd's dramatic?
Not really. Well, in his own way, but he doesn't make things dramatic. He's the controversy buster, Everybody, those people who throw out this, this is a big deal, drama, and here comes Colin Cowherd, and he just, he puts his foot down and puts out the fire and smashes it down.
But that's just his opinion.
But
I think the controversy busters are like sports reporters who report facts and stuff, and then people like Colin Cowherd.
But see, that's the thing though, is that everybody who's getting the reports from the reporters then they throw their own spin on it, and then that spin ends up turning into.
Well, right, but that's
sort of
what
dramatized
sports talk is.
Ideal.
I mean, if you listen to sports talk radio and stuff, and most of these people are just making up stuff. You know what I mean? And it's all opinion. It's all just, well, this is what I think. This is how I feel. And most of the time, people hedge whatever they say with, or they finish their thought or their statement with. But I could be completely wrong.
Well, see that, yeah, I'm not into that business though. I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I'm into talking about something that's like a real possibility, like something that's not going to be crazy out of this world or even
that's
remotely
not as
close to that.
And that's why people do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I get that, but see, I feel that you can bridge the gap between it not being as entertaining, but something that people will listen to.
Sure you can, but I think the people who do that the most successfully, which I would think of like Dan Patrick, they don't just do it with the sports. They bring in other elements, pop culture, entertainment. They have funny little bits and segments that are often sports related. Or at the end of their interviews with people, they ask them silly questions and stuff. And that's the entertainment. And if you actually listen to the sports they talk about, it's not entertaining per se.
Right.
It's educational and it's interesting, but it's not it's not flamboyant and it's not dramatic. It's just pretty bare bones and they offer their opinions. Obviously, people you have to. That's what you're doing. If all you did was reiterate the sports news, why would this wouldn't exist? You just turn on ESPN, you get everything you need.
Right. And what I want to do is bring, like I said, a realistic approach, but get people. I want to get people thinking about what we're talking about. Like form a conversation in your head about what we're discussing. I want to bring in Matt Rigby here because I feel like we're alienating him, and I definitely don't want to do that. Matt Rigby, our third member of the Delay of Game podcast. I mean, do you understand what I'm getting at here, Matt? Because I want people to be engaged, of course, when it comes to sports talk, but I don't want to be throwing out drama or throwing out topics that aren't even remotely close to what's really happening. I want to be able to give people a conversation that they can have, in their own head, or whether, they're talking to the computer, listening to this podcast, or the radio, or somebody else, something that starts a discussion,
Right. And I think that you probably want to try to avoid low-hanging fruit is some of what you're talking about as well, which really fuels sports talk, sports television. I mean, that fuels it every day. And a lot of that has to do with a few things to me. I think, number one, it's the 24-hour cycle, and you have to reach for things at times. But the fact that we get to do an isolated podcast, or that anyone gets to do an isolated podcast, allows us to really hone in on exactly what we want to talk about and avoid the democratization of opinion. I think that the more opinion based that things get, and you Brent talked about it. You have to have some opinion interlaced with fact. It can't be total reporting and stuff like that. But it can't be just let's throw a wild opinion out there and see if another wild opinion latches on before we have branch after branch after branch of that low hanging fruit that I was talking about. So yeah, I totally understand what you were talking about with looking to kind of have a worthy cause, if you will, in the sports world, because it's lacking at times. I mean, I agree with you. There's so much that could be talked about but isn't, and I think that those who aren't talking about what should be talked about are hiding behind the mirage that it's not entertaining, so we can't state it. There are a lot of
part
people,
of the overall agenda,
right? Because there are a lot of people out there. I mean, the three of us, I'm sure, who we don't crave the 24-hour debate cycle of sports. You know, sometimes we just would like to have a genuine introspective discussion about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that something like this definitely gives us that avenue.
Yeah, definitely. That's Matt Rigby, Brent BonFleur. I'm Ryan Swanigan. Welcome into the show. And before we move on, just quickly, because I like to put a disclaimer out there so that way people understand, our basis for where we come from when we talk about, certain teams or sports. So we're going to say what our favorite teams are, the sports that we are involved. I know, Brent, you're looking forward to this one. So I will go first. I love baseball. I love baseball. I love my Chicago Cubs. Those of you who have heard Delay of Game before know that very well. I am a bandwagoner in the NFL, though I lean Kansas City. I'm heavily leaning Kansas City right now.
Right now that they're on like a 10-game win streak.
Exactly. I do believe a good friend of ours, Cody Broder, once said, and I don't think I have this up there, but you can only lean so far until you fall off. So that's the words from Cody Broder. So eventually, maybe, but I lean Kansas City. But still, I will be a bandwagoner for sure in the NFL, and hopefully for the rest of my life. That would be good. As far as NBA goes, I love my Golden State Warriors. I love them so much right now. It is just a phenomenal time to be a Warriors fan, and I really wish I could make it out there to see a game, but it'd be probably very expensive to try and find a ticket. And then...
Ryan, your teams are all really good.
Well...
I'm seeing a trend here.
No.
Took a while for the Cubs.
Yeah, it did take a while for the Cubs.
I'll give you that.
This last season was we finally got there.
I'm just messing with you. Kansas City and Golden State haven't been good in a long time either.
Well, Golden State the past couple of years, but they've had to 2 years. They've had to build up to it.
Yeah.
And Kansas City's had to do the same.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'm a bandwagon Blackhawks fan when it comes to the NHL. Just because it's a Chicago team, but I really don't follow hockey that much. And I love golf. I don't follow it as much as I probably should, but I do enjoy golf. And
I've got a good one. Who's your favorite college football team?
Oh, well, it was Nebraska, and I guess it still is Nebraska.
You went to school there.
I know, and I'm slowly becoming less and less of a Husker fan and more of just a college football fan.
Oh, so this way you can bandwagon on to next year. You're going to be like a Clemson fan.
Oh no!
Or whoever wins the championship. Oh, I'm an Alabama fan now. Yeah.
No, that
always have been.
That is
Roll
not
Tide.
that is not how I
roll Tide.
6 and 7 will allow you to easily transition into that. Huh?
Roll Tide.
Yeah, no, that's not going to be happening. I mean, it's just, I guess, it's that broadcaster mentality that I was taught here at Nebraska, of you have to be neutral in your broadcast.
Yeah.
And so I feel like
sports talk podcast.
As the 4 years went on and post college now, I've kind of become less and less of a true Husker fan or fanatic. I will root for Nebraska. I won't be a fanatic for Nebraska because there's a difference. That's probably for another podcast.
That's fair, because you and I are in the same boat here. Except I actually have a team I like.
I'm not going to, when, for example, my boy Amani Cross, when he gets the football and he breaks through the front seven at front line and he looks like he can, really go for a touchdown or quite a few yards, I'm not going to be one of those fans that's like, oh, go, 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 go. I'm not freaking out like that. I'm just,
But he's your boy, so you just text him after the game and say nice run.
Not really. I'm just standing there and kind of just watching and be like, I'm not really going to say much. I don't really get that excited. Now, when it comes to the Cubs, I am a Cubs fan. That I can definitely say.
Okay.
I am a Cubs fanatic.
Okay.
That's probably the only team in which I enter the fanatic portion of the sports realm is with the Cubs. Everything else I'm pretty chill about. Although Golden State can sometimes get up there. So, anyways. All right, let's get to you, Brent. Enough about me.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. I'm a Golden State Warriors fan. Who won the World Series?
The Royals.
I'm a Royals fan. Are we playing charades? If we were, who would I be? It'd be Ryan Swanigan. But no, I'm with you on the Nebraska thing. Obviously, still in school here in Lincoln, but I'm not a Nebraska fan. Like you said, I will root for them because you have to be a fan on some level. But the team I'm a fanatic for is Florida Gators. Born in Florida. Almost all my family graduated from there. I wanted to go there. Lived in Nebraska, though, so that didn't happen.
That's okay.
In the NFL, Baltimore Ravens, became a Ravens fan. It was the first... in 6th grade, I decided I was going to start liking football, and they were the first team I played on Madden, 2000. Let's see, God, when would that have been? How old are you in 6th grade?
12.
12.
Yeah.
So I was born in 94, so it would have been Madden 06 or something.
06,
or 05, that version of Madden I played with, I did the random team selecting him at Baltimore Ravens. Like, oh, well, I like football now, so I'll just be a Ravens fan.
I like football
It was
now.
rough for a few years, but, it hasn't been too bad of late.
A guy named Joe Flacco came along.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
NBA, Denver Nuggets fan. That started my freshman year of high school because there was this girl I liked, and she was a Denver Nuggets fan, and I didn't really watch the NBA. So I became a Denver Nuggets fan, so we'd have something to talk about in...
it all starts with the women.
Yeah, computer class. I don't know, it was like typing class or something. And as you know, I hate baseball, so that's where my fandom ends.
You gotta be kidding me!
I know.
Very disappointing.
So
and
sorry.
that's why we go to Matt Rigby, because Matt Rigby brings in a big-time baseball element, buddy.
No, there you go.
Let's start with that one right there. Start with the baseball.
Yes, baseball has forever been, will forever be the greatest sport ever created.
Here.
I'm a Mets fan. Well, first of all, let me say, fandom is a rough thing. Fandom is sometimes, I think as you get older, you take a step back. I think everybody does this, and you realize fandom is dumb. There's some dumb elements of fandom. But
that's great. We had on the route, I ranted about why fans are bad and good for sports.
It's a total double-edged sword because at the same time, I will never be able to resist my upbringing. I mean, my upbringing was as an extreme sports fan. I get it all. People have always made fun of me for this. I get it all from my mother. Whatever teams she was a fan of as a kid, I was a fan of. So, yes, it starts with the Mets. Baseball is my favorite sport. The Mets are my favorite team. My whole family's from Long Island, so the Mets, by default, I suppose, became my favorite baseball team.
Thankfully, otherwise we'd have a problem if it was the other one.
Well, sometimes I ask my mom why she didn't just choose to be a Yankees fan. My life would have been easier. I guess she just loved the pain. But
it's branching out. It's being different.
It is.
Not going with the crowd.
She migrated west in the middle stages of her life, became a Broncos fan, passed that on to me. We actually are Broncos season ticket holders.
Oh, nice.
So She'll be at the game this next weekend, but I won't be. This was the first time. This year was the first time in 7 years I didn't go to a Broncos game.
Wow.
But I put my money in the World Series instead.
Oh, there you go. That's I would think I would take that more.
I'm a big hockey fan. I'm a big Avs fan.
You and Devin Cleach would get along very, very well.
I kind of keep that under the radar a little bit. Hockey killed itself with 2 lockouts in our lifetime, so a lot of people struggle to be hockey fans. But I watch every Avs game. Never really been a fan of a specific basketball team. My whole family likes the Knicks, but I was smart enough to not get onto that train. But I do like basketball because I like that I don't have a specific team because I can latch onto the sport. I love some of the storylines. I love Greg Popovich. I love watching what he does as a coach. I love what the Warriors are doing right now. They're changing the game of basketball, turning it into small ball, which some people don't like, but I love watching the evolution because I think all sports need to evolve. College, I've never been a huge college fan. When I was a kid, I realized that all my teams had orange and blue colors. I started watching every Florida game. Go Gators!
But
I'm not.
BonFleur is your new buddy.
I'm not a huge Florida fan. I still watch every game, but and I still, by default of just my sports habits, I still know everything about Florida. But I don't. I always describe it like this to gauge my level of fandom with anything. And so with Florida, I'll say I love it when they win. I'm never depressed when they lose.
Yeah. Well,
I expect it. I expect them to lose when I should expect them to lose.
Right.
I totally thought they'd lose to Alabama. Will Greer killed our season.
Yeah,
they're a good team, but not a good football team.
Yeah, there you go. And I'd say that's basically where I draw the line. I'm not a huge college sports fan of specific teams, but I do follow college sports pretty heavily. But yeah, full disclosure for me is now on the table.
All right. Oh, there we go. That's Matt Rigby, Brent BonFleur, Ryan Swanigan, and we're all glad. I'm glad to be able to say that Delay of Game is back, and this is definitely going to be fun moving forward.
You're listening to Delay of Game,
a sports talk podcast. On Facebook.com/Delay of Game and on Twitter at DOG_podcast.
Delay of Game is going to the monitor and having a look at something controversial or crucial from the week in sports. It's under review.
All right, so how can we not do this first Delay of Game podcast without having the NFL in here? That's almost a given the historical track record of this show, whether it be on the radio or in podcast form. This is certainly probably one of the most interesting and strangest weeks for, I guess, NFL coaching carousels, I guess. We'll start with what is on the table right now, and that is the Eagles, the Giants, the 49ers, the Browns, the Titans, and the Buccaneers, which I'll get to in a little bit. But the only hiring that those NFL teams have taken care of is the Miami Dolphins, who hired Adam Gase as their new head coach. We'll start with that right there. Adam Gase, very well known and I guess has a very good reputation as an offensive coordinator, both with the Bears and previously the 49ers. Broncos, I'm sorry. A little bit less farther west. So, I mean, thoughts, because I thought, I cannot remember who their interim head coach was.
Dan Campbell,
yeah. I thought it was Dan Quinn. I was close. I thought Campbell did a pretty good job, and he worked his butt off to try and really earn the title of head coach. And I don't know, the reaction I've seen from a couple of Dolphins fans I know is that it's sort of they don't hate it, they don't love it. They would have preferred Dan Campbell. I think this is okay, but it's just like it is with any other new head coach. He finally takes that move to the head coaching spot from a coordinator position. It's kind of like, well, let's see how he does, and nowadays in the NFL, it feels like you only have 2 years to get the job done the way the front office wants, or you're not going to be good enough.
Better than in college where you only have like part of a season.
Yeah, pretty much. And for some teams, yeah. But I don't know. That's how I feel. I mean, Matt, Brent, guys' thoughts?
Well, I think, first of all, Adam Gase was probably like one of the top candidates for all these jobs. I mean, right. I think almost every team, aside from, I believe, the Titans, interviewed him. So he was the hot commodity. So in that respect, I think it's like a grand slam. And he's been talked about and looked at for head coaching positions the past few years, ever since I think really when he was in Denver and started getting that offense going. That offense that was it the highest?
It was
the highest scoring
he was
offense
the coordinator
ever?
of that record-setting offense. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So when you see those kind of results from a guy, he's going to be a hot commodity. And I think I think it's a good hire from Miami. Dan Campbell. He came in and I think win his first 2 games or something, and then they just went right back to where they were. So I understand he's familiar with it and it might take some more time, but I think Adam Gase is the hire that's going to pay off in the long run. I think with Dan Campbell, you have him and you improve a little bit maybe next year, but I think ultimately he's like there no more than 2 years. I just don't know if he's ready. I don't know enough about him.
Right.
But I think Adam Gase is someone that you can actually start building with, and he's got a good quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, a talent he can mold. The rest of the offense needs a little bit of work, but I don't know. I think it's a good hire.
I totally agree with what you said about it. I don't know if Campbell's ready yet. I think that's probably what it came down to more than anything else. I mean, Adam Gase is established. First and foremost, and having watched every Broncos game when he was the coordinator, I can definitely vouch for him and say that he's a very innovative offensive mind. He's very organized, and he's very detail-oriented. He's very smart. I mean, you could definitely tell that he was ready to be a head coach. He's been ready for a couple of years. So in that sense, the hiring makes sense to me. My observation over the last couple of years with NFL head coaches, though, and I say this specifically about head coaches, not about coordinators or position coaches, is that you, as an NFL head coach, I think you bring a mentality first and foremost. I don't know if you bring a scheme or if you bring a system or a set of rules. You just bring a mentality, and I think that a team is what their head coach's mentality is. You are what your head coach is. You embody the same mentality. And I can see in that sense how maybe Dolphins fans would want Dan Campbell, because one of the things that he did do was bring an immediate mentality of toughness. And frankly, the Dolphins haven't been tough for 10 years. They're such a finesse football team.
Yeah.
And you can make the argument that although I think Adam Gase is a very good hire, that he's a finesse hire again. And maybe a Dolphins fan, and I'm trying to put myself in their shoes for a second, maybe a Dolphins fan would want to change the tide a little bit as far as the demeanor of the football team and the overall mentality of the football team. But as just purely an outsider, from an outsider perspective, I think the Adam Gase hire was a slam dunk as well. I mean, Adam Gase he's young, but he's very well traveled. I mean, he started his coaching career with Nick Saban at Michigan State, which is something a lot of people don't even realize, or it's not even publicized. So he's been tutored by the best, and I think that's a successful hire for Miami.
Yeah, he's the youngest coach in the NFL,
now. Yep.
And one thing, I don't know what his status is, but did Miami actually let go of Dan Campbell, or are they just reverting him back to his defensive coordinator position? Because
a good
kind of get the best
I believe
of
he
both
stayed on the
worlds.
staff.
I think so too.
Which I think is smart. So now you bring in the head coach as this guy, but he's still there to provide. Well, I guess if he was there before and they weren't tough, maybe he's not quite doing it, and maybe they'll just revert back to that same way. But you still have him on the staff, as far as I know. I don't think they would fire him. Now, maybe, I don't know, now that they've hired Gase, maybe he'll want someone else or something like that. But, I mean, you still have them both on the staff, at least at the moment.
Yeah, the latest this is from ESPN, and the headline is, Dan Campbell's future with Dolphins remains in limbo. Okay. That is as of today.
It's going to come down to whether Gase wants him there.
Right, exactly. But Dan
Campbell's going to get a job. I mean, he's going to bring toughness somewhere. You know?
Exactly, yeah. Now, of course, that's the only coaching hiring that has taken place as of today. There could be another firing. We'll get to that in a minute. I just have to say that with Tampa Bay, I thought it was a mistake. I think they have made a mistake in firing Lovie Smith. I think he got one season with Jameis Winston, and they finished 5 and something, 6 and something.
I think they only had 4 wins.
I thought they had more than that.
I don't think so.
Still,
they had 8 combined in the 2 years, but I don't know.
Okay,
what
so maybe you had 5.
Probably.
Yeah, because I think they only had 2 or 3 the first year, and I know they didn't get 6 wins this year. So,
well,
anyway, yeah,
the point
8 wins
is,
in 2 years, though.
Yeah, but again, he had one quarterback, one. You had Josh McCown. That whole situation in year one. Then you get Jameis Winston. He's adjusting to the NFL. And then you fire Lovie Smith. It's like, well, that didn't get you anywhere. And now it really won't get you anywhere because now Jameis Winston has to learn a whole new system in his second year in the NFL. It will be literally as he's taking 2 steps forward this season, trying to, get used to the NFL grind. Now he's going to be taking 2 steps back and having to relearn everything with a new head coach and a new style, new offensive scheme, everything. So that's why I feel that Tampa Bay made a mistake in firing Lovie Smith. I don't think they gave him enough time. That's all I really can put it to as far as simplifying it down. I think the Bucs made a mistake in firing Lovie Smith. I think they should have held on to him another season and kind of helped out with improving the offensive line, getting some more weapons for I guess not really offensively, but more key playmakers defensively is really what they needed. So I don't know. That's what I think with Tampa Bay.
Well, Lovie has a defensive mindset. He's always been a defensive coach, and I follow some Bucs fans on Twitter, and they are irate about the path of the defense over the last 4 years. It's free agent signing after free agent signing after free agent signing, or draft pick after draft pick, high draft picks that are all busts. And a lot of that, I know Lovie's only been there for 2 years, but he had a year or 2 off seasons really to revamp the roster, especially defensively. And a lot of the feeling is he just didn't get it done. And so there's talk in the organization that they're looking at bringing back offensive coordinator Dirk Cutter so that Jameis still has some fluidity, and I think that's been proven that with a young quarterback, you definitely need that in your first 2-3 years, some constant. But I wouldn't understand, because they're even talking about Cutter as a head coach option. I wouldn't understand. I mean, I get firing Lovie in that on his side of the ball he didn't do enough, but I wouldn't understand firing Lovie Smith to hire Dirk Cutter. I mean, it's taking 2 steps forward to take 1 step back, regardless of whether you're looking to keep some familiarity for Jameis. I think a lot of coaching changes depend on who you bring in afterwards. I mean, as a Broncos fan last year, I wanted John Fox fired until I realized once he was fired that, well, you're probably going to get someone who's a lot like John Fox. So, and I mean, I like Kubiak, but it's basically the same thing. Yeah. So the jury's still out, I think, on that. But I do get what you're talking about, Ryan. I mean, I thought it was a curious firing more than anything else.
And they went 6-10 this season, by the way.
Yeah.
So they went from
So they had 2 wins last.
They had 2 wins last season with a guy who's essentially a backup quarterback being their starter the whole way.
Right.
And then switching back and forth, and then they go to Jameis Winston, who gets them 6-10, which is a good one of the better records that they've had since that one great season with Josh Freeman.
Right. It was weird because they did improve. And typically when you see improvement, it's like, okay, especially 4 games of improvement, think like, okay, well, if we can do even half that next year, you're at 8-8. And in that division, I don't know, you got a really outside chance at the playoffs. But, you think I would have thought at least one more year. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it does surprise me as well. But I don't know. Yeah, I think you said it best is like you're maybe taking a step forward, but you're probably going backwards, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
And I think fairly substantially.
Here's something I saw, and I'm going to get statistical for a second, but this may have been the explanation as to why Lovie Smith didn't keep his job. Of the top 10 teams in net yards per play, so you take defensive yards per play allowed, and you subtract the offensive yards per play, or maybe it's vice versa. And it's almost always, that stat is almost always an indicator of good teams. For example, the top 10 teams in that stat in the regular season this year, 9 of them made the playoffs. The one that didn't was the number 7 team, which was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there was some theory, and because I got a little bit in depth reading about this, there was some theory that the fact that the Bucs were 7th in net yards per play and only won 6 games indicates that they must have made some major coaching mistakes inside of games throughout the year. Because statistically alone, you should not be 6-10 with that. It's an isolated stat, trust it as much as you may. But like I said, 9 of the other 10 teams in the top 10 made the playoffs.
That's interesting.
There was some, I think the Bucs almost admitted this without saying or without citing the stat statistically. There was some in-game gaffes and some dissension inside the organization because of that.
All right. Interesting. Couple of other interesting notes here. Of course, the Browns are going to be searching for another head coach.
They're going to be bad for a long time.
They hired the Mets vice president,
Paul DePodesta.
Yeah. Which I thought
Jonah Hill in Moneyball.
Exactly, yeah. Which I thought was a very, very interesting move to bring a baseball guy who is so ingrained into the sport into the NFL and try to help out one of the most embarrassing teams of this century, really.
I was mad because it was a hit for the Mets.
Oh, of course. I mean, I would be too, quite honestly. That was,
but it was interesting. Yeah,
to go out the door.
Now, what's his position now?
I think officially he was hired as there's statistical something in his official job title. It's like statistical analyst or something like that.
I heard this on the radio. This isn't my idea, but the Browns have that's it's not so much their players, it's their management. That's really what's tanking them. Now, granted, their team is pretty terrible, but they have so many people in their front office that it's just like it's a lot of bureaucracy, I guess.
Chief strategy officer, Brent.
See, like what? How many NFL teams have those? I don't know. Maybe they all do, but I think the Browns. If you listed like the front office staff for every NFL team, and you just laid them all out side by side, the Browns would be like. You'd have a few lines for a team like the Patriots, and then the Browns, you'd have like a page of just all these people that have these different roles and different roles and different roles. And I think that's like they're trying to be really cutting edge or whatever, and it's just completely backfiring to where it's just a huge mess where you have to get this person's approval for this, and then it goes to this person and this person, and nothing works. Now, we've seen the opposite where you give one person way too much power, Chip Kelly, and things can tank that way too. But it just seems like Cleveland has way, way too many people making decisions that I think to appease everybody, you have to just make a bad decision or not the right decision. You just have to make a decision that's going to like appease everyone or that everyone can agree on, and it's probably not the best decision.
Exactly, yeah.
So
That's
anyway. The Browns are terrible.
Well, yeah, and they probably will be for a while. Who knows how long that's going to go? But honestly, I think in switching here, the San Francisco 49ers are starting to enter the Cleveland Browns camp of being a poorly run, poorly managed, a mismanaged organization. You hire Jim Tom Sula for one season, and now you're going to say out the door on to the next? I mean, I understand Chip Kelly is out there. I think Chip Kelly is a college football coach, not an NFL coach.
Yeah.
I was slightly skeptical when the Eagles hired him, but I went along with it.
That's nothing to be ashamed of. Look at Nick Saban. I mean, no one's going to look at him and be like, "Oh, what a failure." Yeah. I mean, he just didn't last in the NFL.
Exactly.
But he's maybe the best college coach of all time.
Because some coaches are just that way, where they can't succeed in the NFL, but they have that NFL caliber experience. They take it to the college level, and they're Nick Saban, and they're Les Miles, and they're Chip Kelly.
The thing with the 49ers is like, and it wasn't an anomaly because they've been bad for a while. Now, obviously, they had an amazing run with
Jim Harbaugh.
Well, no, I'm talking back in the past with Jerry Rice and Steve Young and Joe Montana and all that. But then for a long time, they were they were really bad. And then they had Jim Harbaugh. And it's like, well, now they're one of the best. They made a Super Bowl, and they barely lost it. And then, just complete swan dive.
It wasn't sub 500 though.
Into garbage.
They were never sub 500 with him as a head coach.
No, with him, and then they fired him. Yeah. Which, granted, there was stuff going on.
No,
it wasn't so much a football
parted
thing.
ways.
Yeah, right. Whenever you have to mutually part ways, it's probably the furthest thing from mutual. But, in this case, it might have been they probably just hated each other both. The other management and the coach hated each other.
It was mutual, not amicable.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but that's what I'm getting to, though. Is that's the problem? It's management's problem, but management doesn't know that, nor do they care.
Right, but what's the difference? What I'm getting at here is the difference between Cleveland and the 49ers is like the 49ers figured it out for a while. They figured it out in Jim Harbaugh. They made it to a Super Bowl, and they were close other years.
Yeah.
The Browns have always been bad. So it's just like
it's
mind-boggling to me
different types of
that
bad
the 49ers,
management.
that they could go back, because typically when you get on track that much.
Like Golden State.
Yeah.
Like the team that's on the other side of the bay.
It would be like if Golden State makes it to the NBA Finals and loses, and then they fire their coach and just, just completely tank the next season. Like that would be the equivalent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think football's the NFL particularly, maybe not college football, but the NFL particularly is the only professional sports organization, I believe, where the hierarchy of success goes coach, player, management. I mean, like if you look at baseball, it's management. It's how you build your team, then it's player, then it's manager. And the manager's important, but he's third on that rung. I think in the NFL, it is coach first and foremost. And I think you get some organizations who fail to understand that. And a lot of that's probably ego because if you do enough reading about the Niners, everyone blames their problems on ownership and on upper management.
And that's what it is.
Right. They say Trent Baalke, the general manager, is a total tyrant. They say that Jed York has personal vendettas, and that's why they got rid of Jim Harbaugh, and so on down the line. I mean, I've never seen, maybe in any professional sport in my life, a team disintegrate as quickly as the Niners disintegrated. I mean, it was like the top to the bottom in a 12-month span.
Exactly.
The players were even retiring because they knew what was in store.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But I thought it was an interesting comparison, Niners to Browns. I mean, the Browns tried to trade for Jim Harbaugh. They and maybe their story is different if they get him, but it's not that the Browns were never trying, but they keep firing coach after coach after coach. We saw the Raiders couldn't get out of their rut until they kept a coach for longer than a year. That's going to be the same thing with the Browns. This is their 9th coach since, what was it? Since they were reinstated as a team in 98. I mean, or 99 or something. That's 16 years, 9 coaches. You're never going to succeed when, in my opinion, like I said, the coach is the top of the hierarchy.
Oh, yeah.
And we've talked about on this show before, it's having a coach getting time. Give the coach time. Let him get established. I think about that here in Nebraska and with Bo Pelini and how he had a time where he was starting out in the Big 12 and then he was forced into the Big 10, and it's a completely different style of football, and I don't think he adjusted to it well enough, even though he was consistently winning games. That was a little different. In the NFL, in Cleveland, 2 seasons for Mike Pettin, and that's not getting yourself established. I just said with Tampa Bay, Lovie Smith couldn't get himself established because he had 2 different quarterbacks. One was a career backup, and the other one was a rookie in season number 2. He had a better second season, and now he's gone. And it's like, well, you had your chance. Nope, see you later.
I've always said that teams that say they're rebuilding need to at some point start to rebuild. Like if you're the
Exactly.
49ers and you say at the beginning of the season we're in a rebuild, your rebuild didn't go anywhere because you fired your head coach.
Right.
So
Exactly.
at some point you have to actually start rebuilding in order to be in a rebuild.
Yeah. And I think what the 49ers are expecting is another Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Where Jim Harbaugh comes in, first season, boom, Super Bowl.
That's just not going to happen
It's just-
because there are
that's
very few
great.
Jim Harbaughs out
Or
there.
playoffs at
50.
least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I think the best way to sum it up is the Browns. Well, actually, I guess the Browns do it to themselves to some degree, but they're basically they just can't help themselves. Whereas all the decisions they make, all the draft picks, are just terrible. Whereas the 49ers, they could control it. They could have put aside the egos. They could have, and they could, I mean, sure, maybe they hate each other, but at least don't let it affect your product out on the field. And they'll still probably be a playoff team in the NFC, which is saying a lot. But, we know what happened. So
Wrapping this up, Chip Kelly. It's our last topic for the NFL coaches. Chip Kelly, is he going to get another NFL job? Because a lot of people say yes. A lot of people say San Francisco. And that's immediately when I think of that is 2 very different, I guess, personas with their own ideals and how they want to run things, not getting along and clashing in Trent Baalke and Chip Kelly. Those are 2 different people, 2 different types of people who run things the way they do.
if they can handle Jim Harbaugh, what makes you think they're going to handle Chip Kelly? I mean, maybe he doesn't get as red in the face and swear as much, but his ego and his personality are just as big, if not bigger. And his need for control is probably even more than Jim Harbaugh. So I that just seems like a huge blunder by both sides, I think.
Yeah.
I think Chip Kelly gets an NFL job simply because there are no college jobs open. I mean, what are the big college jobs open? I mean, when you look at this time last year, and maybe 1 or 2 of these were filled last year, but at the same time that NFL coaches were getting fired last year, Michigan was open, Florida was open, and Nebraska was open. There are no major college football jobs open right now. I mean, I saw some rumblings that Chip Kelly might go to Navy, and I was like, to turn Navy into a national power? I don't understand that. So
Right.
I don't think he goes to college simply because there's nothing that's big enough for him in college right now.
There is one opening right now in college football. It's the University of Texas San Antonio.
Ooh.
I mean,
It's a good starting job.
it's a starting job.
Hey,
it's not
the
a Chip,
Roadrunners.
It's not a Chip Kelly job. That was where Larry Coker coached, right?
Yep, correct.
it?
Yep.
That being said, I think the fit for Chip Kelly's Tennessee. I really do, because of Mariota. I think that's probably where he ends up. I agree. The Niners don't seem like a fit to me. You know where he might be the biggest fit? The Eagles, and then they already got rid of him.
Yeah.
So,
Right,
you
yeah.
know.
What about Tennessee, though? Marcus Mariota's right there.
It's a fit. I mean, I think it's a fit. Tennessee's just, to me, such a tough place to coach. I don't know about you guys, but
That's bad.
And this is just a totally unfounded, throwing it out there statement, but something about
We're trying
that,
to get away from this drama
No,
stuff.
I know.
I know, but
he's addressing it before he says it.
That's fair. That's
well,
very
but
fair.
something about the Titans just seems like they'll never be good. You know, like it's just the same old blah, blah, blah with the Titans. It seems like a boring job.
I feel you with that, yeah.
So we're sports savvy, fairly. We watch a lot of football, all of us. How many previous head coaches can you name for Tennessee?
For Tennessee?
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably name a few.
Well, they had Jeff Fisher for so long. Well, that was a thing.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but, aside from Jeff Fisher.
I can go back to Wisenhunt, and then I can go back to Munchak, but I don't know who was before.
So,
Munchak,
that's like two. And, how many
I know they had
quarterbacks?
But see, that's the thing. It's because it was Jeff Fisher for so long, though.
Right.
That's why.
And what I'm getting at is, like, there's just, they're like a nobody.
Right. They had a run for, like, 3 or 4 years where they had, like, the Mike Mularkeys of the world. He might even still be there. It's like
he was their interim.
They're the type of team where I'm like, huh? You know, like I'm like,
exactly.
Still, you know.
Well, it's curious to me as to why Chip Kelly. All the talk about Chip Kelly would lead you to believe that he's going to San Francisco, and like he really hasn't even had much contact, if any, with Tennessee. So it makes me wonder, and this is just throwing something out there too. Does he see Colin Kaepernick as a better prospect than
it's possible.
His own Marcus Mariota? Who people are like, it's like his son. Or
well, see,
Marcus Mariota.
I disagree with that completely because look at them. Colin Kaepernick is in that category of the equivalent of a dual threat quarterback in college football, where he can run and he can throw, but if you put him in the NFL, he can only run, and he can't really throw that well, like a Johnny Manziel, like a Tim Tebow, like
Kaepernick can throw.
Kaepernick is a little bit better, but
he's inaccurate.
Nobody will get to. I'm thinking of Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the Russell Wilson of the NFL.
Yeah, but
there's
Russell
only
Wilson's
one
a passer first.
Yeah, but he's also very mobile too.
Yeah,
the very very good running quarterback. Nobody else who has gotten into the NFL who has been those true top-tier dual-threat quarterbacks like Kaepernick, Manziel, etc., have succeeded like Russell Wilson. And that's why Russell Wilson is a 1 in a 100 years type of guy. And that's why I don't think it will be any more successful with Colin Kaepernick.
Well,
there's a new Colin Kaepernick right now. It's not very likable. The old Colin Kaepernick is gone.
I think Kaepernick was at that sort of level when Jim Harbaugh was there, and the team was a lot better.
Exactly.
Because Russell Wilson owes a lot of his success to having a great coach in Pete Carroll and a really, really good team around him.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, offensive-wise, too, I know their defense is the strength of the team. It always has been and will be for a while. But still, I mean, you can always hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. There's a lot of veteran stuff. It was a situation where, yes, you brought in a superb talent and stuck him in the middle of a great situation.
And you maintain that as well.
Yeah,
you maintain that talent. The 49ers did not do that.
Right. But I think, if you just put them talent to talent, Kaepernick, talent-wise, might be better than Russell Wilson. I don't know.
I would disagree with that.
Yeah,
I don't know,
Matt.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know who I'd pick, if I had to pick, but I'm just saying.
Right.
It's not a huge gap.
I think their physical skills are probably a wash. To be honest, I think their physical skills are a wash. I think one's better coached. I think one's put in to better circumstances. I think Kaepernick's
one's more mature than the other.
That's a lot of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think Kaepernick's inaccurate. He's been inaccurate since college. He hasn't really improved on that, which says maybe something about his willingness to develop his maturity, etc. And it's defense is caught up quick to those type of quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly.
They really
did.
The
thing.
They really did, and so I kind of agree with what you guys are saying in that. Maybe it's not a great environment for Chip Kelly to be in the NFL right now, but there's no college jobs. I can't see him taking it anywhere else.
Right. Fair enough.
He's hurt by his offense is so predicated upon speed. And when he was in the Pac-12, he knew he was faster than every other team.
Exactly.
You get to the NFL, you're not faster than anyone anymore. Everyone's the same speed. So I think it really hurts him.
Yeah. That's really good. I agree with that. Well said.
This is Delay of Game,
a sports talk podcast. Available on YouTube and online at thedelayofgamepodcast.wordpress.com.
Time now for an original.
Hell yeah. Yeah!
The Delay of Game Random Facts.
All right, we're bringing back the random facts because it's only fitting if there are previous elements of Delay of Game on the Delay of Game podcast. We also are bringing back props too, not today, but that is also a part of the show as well still. So, we'll kick things off.
Fact 1.
So, interestingly enough, with the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, everybody knows they won their last playoff game in January of 1994, and then until last night. In 94, they had quarterback Joe Montana. Did you know, gentlemen, that in that playoff win and Saturday's playoff win against the Texans for the Chiefs in 94 and last night, both quarterbacks were formerly with the San Francisco 49ers organization, and both ended up getting to Kansas City via the trade.
I know it. I mean, if I had thought about it, I would have realized that. It's always interesting. I forget almost all the time that Joe Montana played with another team, but didn't just play with another team. I mean, you see a lot of older quarterbacks go play with another team.
Right.
He was really successful with the Chiefs for the time he was there. Was it 3-4 years?
That's right.
That was maybe the most successful era of Chiefs football ever. I mean, they were competing on and off with the Oilers and the Bills in those early 90s.
Exactly.
So it was tough, but he had a good run with the Chiefs for a while, similarly to Alex Smith. Now, I know Alex Smith wasn't Joe Montana in San Francisco, but Alex Smith has, since he came to Kansas City, has completely reversed their fortunes.
Exactly.
Sometimes, we talked about coach, and I stand by my statement that the coach is the hierarchy in the NFL, but, man, sometimes if you can just get a quarterback, you improve your record by 6-7 games.
Exactly.
The previous season. And with Alex Smith, it's been a consistent improvement for KC. And I mean, it kills me to say this because I hate the Chiefs. But
be a Broncos fan,
they might be the best team in the NFL right now. They have a good shot of going into New England.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah. The Patriots, there's some question marks around Tom Brady and the status of his health.
Yeah.
And what the Patriots can do offensively, defensively. They've been rocked a little bit defensively lately.
They might be the best team in the AFC. I don't know if I'm going to go NFL yet.
True.
Especially with that. For sure the hottest team.
Right.
I think even hotter, you can say, than Carolina.
I would agree. 11 in a row.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the Panthers had 14 in a row
and then they dominated.
But
and then
still.
Yeah.
There's something.
I would agree with that.
There's something in the air in Kansas City this year. I mean,
I know with the Royals going into the Chiefs.
I would say the Chiefs have a better chance of making the Super Bowl than the Panthers do.
I'd agree. Yeah, the AFC is an easier road than the NFC.
And the NFC is very, very tough.
I think the Panthers, honestly, we'll get to fact 2 in a second. I think the Panthers are starting to get worn down. I really think they are.
I don't know.
They've looked.
That's a challenge for them. It's not talent at all.
Oh, yeah. No, they've got it. Yeah. It's just I think fatigue might be setting in a little bit, whereas Kansas City, if you want to think about it this way, maybe was saving up for later in the season.
Here's the plan, guys. We're going to lose our first 5 games, and then we're just going to win the rest.
5, and then all of a sudden
we're going to play a 16-game season, but not until we're 5 games into the regular season.
KC might have suffered a huge loss yesterday with Macklin, though.
That's true.
They haven't officially revealed what's wrong with Macklin yet, but there's some ACL speculation. Because remember, I think the biggest leap for the Chiefs from the last 2-3 years when they were good but not great, from the last 2-3 years to this year and finally being able to win a playoff game is the fact that, remember they had gone like 20 straight games without a receiver catching a touchdown
last season.
This year. And then Macklin comes and they completely have a different red zone threat. And red zone's such a big part of football. They have an ability to move the sticks on 3rd and long if they have to. And if they lose Macklin, they could be in trouble in that regard, because then you're down to just kind of Kelsey again.
Yeah.
And they've already lost Jamal Charles.
He's good, but he's not a wide receiver.
There's still a couple of other decent receivers, but nothing to the level of Jeremy Macklin.
Jeremy Macklin, when he was in Philadelphia, I mean, he was a top 10 wide receiver probably in the NFL, and he's not quite there, but that's not Kansas City's offense.
Right, yeah.
Fact 2.
Brent BonFleur.
All right, I found a
Forgot to
different
throw
one
the names on with
aside
these.
from the lottery. So, anyone who watched the Steelers-Bengals game last night, it's a pretty ugly game as far as, well,
Just in the first half.
penalties and fighting with coaches on the sideline. People's hair.
That's the most interaction I've ever seen
pulled.
with coaches getting involved in fights.
And who's the Steelers assistant that pulled the guy's hair?
That's Munchak, yeah.
Yeah, that Mike Munchak.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think he was asking for it. I mean, like he started that. I really think he did.
Oh, yeah.
But so get this: in the 3 games that the Steelers and Bengals have played this season against each other, the Steelers have had 30 penalties for 315 yards, and the Bengals have had 29 penalties for 200 yards, which brings the total to 59 penalties for 515 yards. In 3 games, equates to about 20 flags a game for 172 penalty yards per game.
Wow.
So there's just something about these teams when they get together, they just can't play clean. So,
Well, I think
which when you're
that
coached by Mike Tomlin is foregone conclusion.
you know what that speaks to, and I think that this was overlooked in the immediacy of everyone jumping on sanctimony last night. It speaks. Wow. It speaks to both of those teams were culprits last night. That was a terrible game, chippy wise on both sides. It wasn't just. I know that the Bengals drive, the Bengals mistakes on the last drive got magnified, but
Right.
Pac-Man was enticed by Joey Porter standing on the field, basically saying, "Hit me," that. Right. And the Munchak thing. I mean, Burfict. I thought this was totally overlooked. Burfict was fired up by, and maybe you don't remember this play, but there was a play on near the goal line.
Yep.
Pittsburgh was driving in to score, and David DeCastro, the Steelers guard, drove Burfict 15 yards after the whistle had blown, or something like that. I'm exaggerating a little bit, and then drove him into the ground. The official saw it, conferred, and didn't throw a flag.
Yeah.
And that was what really got Vontaze Burfict fired up. So, and that was a Steelers' dirty play. And both of those teams were an embarrassment to football, if you will, last night. Because everyone was jumping on how I know Boomer Esiason said after the game that as a Bengal alum, he was embarrassed. But Steelers alum should have been embarrassed last night, too.
Yeah. Both sides. Both sides, really.
Yeah. I mean, as a fan, people on TV will say that, but like as a fan, like it's pretty fun.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
It's great.
I liked it.
Let's be real.
I wanted to prod the sanctimony train that everyone was on and say
exactly,
we need to have some transparency in this if we're going to talk about that.
Of course. Right. Oh, yeah.
Fact 3.
I can't find where your name is on here, Matt. I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is.
Matt Rigby.
There you go.
Yeah. The destroyer. My fact is NFL related as well. I'm piggybacking off of Ryan game-wise in that I'm talking about the Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs game, if you want to call it that, yesterday.
Yeah.
Houston turned the ball over 5 times yesterday. Kansas City turned the ball over once. By my math, that's a -4 turnover differential for Houston. That's a +4 turnover differential for the Chiefs. That runs the total this year in the NFL to 36 games in which one team has had 4 more turnovers forced than the other. Only once has a team won in those 36 games when losing the turnover battle by at least 4. That was last week when Peyton came in for the Broncos. They lost the turnover battle by 4. But it speaks to the importance, obviously, in every NFL game of taking care of the football. But I think there are 3 things that win more than anything else in January football. It's a running game, it's a defense, and more than anything else, it's taking care of the football. And the Texans did not do that yesterday. So, again, 36 times.
In a dome stadium, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
36 times that a team has lost the turnover battle by 4. They've lost 35 of them this year in the NFL.
And the only one, the future Hall of Famer Peyton Manning. How about that? Isn't that great? We're going to forego That's What's Really Going On. I'm sorry, Brent. We'll push it to next week. I know you got a good one. We'll push it to next week. We're running out of time here because I know you got to skedaddle. And we're going to have a separate podcast, speaking of which, a quick promo for a side podcast, a Delay of Game podcast special. And this will be hopefully a podcast that appears often for Delay of Game. It's called Guest Work, and it will feature a specific guest on our various social media outlets and our website, in which we have a guest come on and talk about whatever. Our first one is Doug Lowry. A lot of really good stuff coming from Doug today. So be sure to catch that podcast as well on our Facebook page and Twitter pages, facebook.com/delayofgame, twitter.com/DOG_podcast, and of course our website. You ready for this, Brent? I had trouble with this last time.
Oh, yeah.
The delayofgamepodcast.wordpress.com. I'm not going to say it again. because yeah, thank you. I had trouble with that last time, but I got it out this time. Yeah, I know. Hooray. So, check out this one. Check out the Guest Work Delay of Game podcast special as well. And now we move on to our predictions. And we'll start with, of course, the biggest one that's coming up this week. Tomorrow night, Monday, January 11th, the college football national championship between the stingiest defense of them all in Alabama and the team that still doesn't, or that people still don't believe is going to get over the hump, the Clemson Tigers, even though they're still undefeated. Brent BonFleur, we'll start with you. Bama, Clemson.
Oh, boy. This is tough. Which, by the way, did we get our picks for the... Yeah, I got my picks for the first round right. Because I picked Clemson and Alabama to win.
Yeah, I think we both did. Yeah.
I think Clemson. Alabama, they're so good. They've been here so many times. But I don't think they have the offense this time. And I think Clemson is good enough on defense to... man, it's really tough. Mm-hmm. I think Clemson... in a close one. Are we doing I don't know what the score would be. Probably.
No, we don't have to do scores.
Yeah.
We used to do scores. We don't do scores anymore. Just pick the teams.
Yeah. Clemson. But it's like, it's close to a toss-up, but right. I think 60-40 Clemson.
Yeah. Matt Rigby?
I think so much of this game comes down to whether Shaq Lawson plays or not.
That's big.
He says I think he's going to play, but how healthy is he? At what percentage can he go? So often national championship games get overanalyzed, if you will. There's not much to analyze in this game. Alabama is what Alabama is. Every single year they play fantastic defense against the run, and they run the football on offense, and that's when they're successful, and then it opens up the play action, et cetera, et cetera. Because of that, and I do believe in Clemson. I agree with Ryan that not enough people believe in them. I do after they beat Oklahoma. I don't know if I believed in them before that, but I think they're a legitimate football team. But I just think that Alabama is good enough, just because, like I said, they're so vanilla. They never change it up, but they're good enough. Just they'll line up and beat you with the players they have. They just know that they're better, and I think that they're good enough to win that football game. I think Clemson's a formidable foe, but I just think Alabama's too good.
Fair enough.
So I'll take Alabama in a close one because Shaq Lawson plays.
Same here. I'm going to go with Alabama. I think this is a close game. I would not be surprised if we have overtime. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if we get overtime in this one. Yeah. I know what I'm looking forward to that they hopefully have will be that the coaches' room. Remember last year?
Absolutely.
They had Mike Riley, and they had the Mississippi State head coach
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen was in there.
They had Pat Narduzzi in there.
Man, that was so good.
Yeah.
I loved Dan Mullen talking about football. I loved hearing Mike Riley talking about football. It was great. Oh, I loved it so much. I hope they have it again.
They are going to have that.
They are. Do we know who's going to be in there?
Cast.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but Mike Tirico said yesterday on the NFL broadcast that any channel that has the ESPN insignia associated with it will have the game on with a different type of coverage.
That's amazing.
Which is really cool.
Oh, I'm watching the coaches one. No, actually, I won't. I will be asleep because I work overnights.
Oh, so you're not
never
mind. Stay up for that?
No,
come on.
Of course not. I need to sleep. Maybe I
during the
will.
day and then,
I don't know.
Yeah, totally throw out your sleep cycle to watch the game.
That would be very difficult.
One thing I think we can all agree on, just please let it be a good game.
Yes.
They haven't been.
No, they haven't.
In the national championship, they've been bad for a long time.
Yeah.
So
last year started off well, and then
Till Ohio State just dominated the line of scrimmage.
Oregon ran out of gas.
Yeah.
Finally ran out of gas. All right, we'll predict the 2 NFL playoff games that we know of, which are the AFC ones. Chiefs and Patriots in New England. Brent BonFleur. Exactly.
I'm going to do what I said a lot of people do. Well, not entirely, but sort of. I'm going to hedge this a little bit, which is if the Patriots had all their players, I would pick them, and I don't think it would be that close, as good as the Chiefs are. But because they're not, it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's still really hard. I'm going to go Patriots still. Yeah. I just think when you get here, it's just the miracle run has to end at some point. Maybe it'll be with a Super Bowl win. I don't think it'll get quite that far. I think this is probably where it ends. And I think it'll be a good game too. But Brady, Belichick, they've been here. They've done it so many times, and there's just got to be a little bit left in the tank. I think the Patriots.
It's tough to pick these games, or this game in particular, because you just don't know who's going to play for either team. Like if Macklin is as seriously injured as they fear, that's a big storyline. We don't know if Edelman's going to play. We don't know if who
Brady
else is. Brady's hurt.
Somewhat of a question.
Right.
If Brady doesn't play,
I
mean that's obvious that she's just going to steamroll probably. But
I think Brady does play, but I mean Edelman's a huge storyline whether he plays or not. Patriots are banged up on D. Chandler Jones hasn't played for a couple weeks, so you don't know who's going to play.
Right.
Assuming, again, I'm going to hedge mine a little bit too. Assuming all those things are relatively equal, it still becomes a toss-up. And when games are toss-up in the NFL, especially in January, I go with the home team. So as hot as the Chiefs are right now, the Patriots have lost one game in the Tom Brady era in the playoffs at home. Only one time has he lost at home. And
so the Ravens.
That was to Baltimore. Exactly, yeah. So I'm sticking with New England. Close game, though, and injuries could play a huge part.
Right. I'm going to go with my gut, honestly, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I just don't think... I think the Miami loss kind of really was not necessarily a punch in the gut. It probably was, but it was also kind of something revealing a little bit in that, the Patriots, they might be losing gas. They might be losing some steam here and might be a little bit depleted, especially defensively.
And that's the other huge injury is Sebastian Vollmer. The O-line looks so bad for New England against Miami. And if Vollmer doesn't play and if they don't get their O-line figured out, then it is Kansas City. Because Kansas City up front on defense, they're monsters.
They're back to healthy
Very
now.
good.
They're back to healthy. So
that could be the deciding factor regardless. I mean, they're that good.
Yeah, even with a healthy O-line.
Right,
that could be. That's the matchup of the game.
So, and that's why I have a feeling it's going to be the Chiefs, unbelievably.
Yeah.
I mean, Chiefs, Patriots, I still look at that as like, Patriots, what are you kidding me? Now it's like, don't know. Something that's close to Matt Rigby's heart will be a rematch between Denver and Pittsburgh. In Denver, though, this time, not in Pittsburgh. Brent, we'll start with you, Steelers-Broncos.
Is Peyton going to play this one?
He's playing.
Yes.
He is playing this one. I'm going to go with the Broncos, and it's not just because I hate the Steelers. I just think that, one, if Ben Roethlisberger can't go, it's not even a contest.
They should be able to. I think.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll play regardless, but he'll probably get hurt during the course of the game because that guy just can't stay healthy. I mean, that guy's got a better chance of going through a season uninjured as we have it winning this $1 billion Powerball.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, I mean, Denver's defense is still very, very, very good. And that offense with Peyton Manning, which there's questions about, is it actually a health thing with him or is it the age? If it's health-wise and he's healthy, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with Peyton Manning. I think they'll be fine. I do think it'll be fairly close, but this one is the easiest to pick for me by far, and I'm gonna go Broncos.
Yeah. I agree. I'm going to say Matt for last because it's his team, but it's Peyton. I feel a rejuvenated Peyton Manning, a Peyton Manning that is fired up and ready to go, and maybe seeing his last game or games coming up here. So I'm definitely going with a hot Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, Matt.
It's another game where who plays decides a lot, because if Roethlisberger doesn't play, we might as well write this entire game off.
Yeah.
I think he probably plays, but, man, he looked hurt last night. I don't know what percentage he's going to play at. And we talked about how the Chiefs have headhunters on their defensive line. The Broncos have some headhunters, too, so they could really do further damage to Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown went out with a concussion last night. That looked pretty bad, too.
Yeah.
So who knows?
A couple of times he got rocked.
Yeah, that's
last night.
nasty.
So, jury's still out on whether he plays. And so, again, I'll talk about this game as though both of them play. Pittsburgh's tough, but, again, in January, it's so tough to go on the road. And they just went on the road last night. If Denver takes care of the football, because that's the biggest key with Peyton. I don't think, there's such debate this week about who was going to play quarterback. Was going to be Osweiler or Peyton? What are the merits of each of them? I think if you do a cost benefit on each of them, it completely evens out. Either option is about the same, assuming both take care of the football. If Peyton Manning doesn't throw the 18 interception pace, or doesn't have the 18 interception pace that he was at, he was probably on pace for more like close to 40 picks. I mean, if he knocks that off, if he takes care of the football, if the rest of the skill players take care of the football, their defense is too good to, despite being torched the first time they played Pittsburgh, their defense is too good at home with the crowd and the way that improves the pass rush and stuff. Their defense is too good, to not kind of control the ball, control the clock, and advance to the next round. But it will be close. I mean, the Broncos aren't built to blow anyone out.
No.
So
they're really not.
With the way they play. So
I agree.
It should be a close game. And they both should be close games. I'm excited for, although everyone's saying, the NFC's the tougher road and has the better teams, I think the Final Four in the AFC's a pretty good undercard for the NFC.
Oh, yeah, definitely. One more prediction here, and we'll have the rest of our predictions posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/delayofgame. Cavs and Spurs in the NBA. This is a good one, and this is in San Antonio, who have not lost a home game since almost a year ago.
It's been 31, right? Or is it 30?
I don't know. I don't know how many. I think it might be 31.
31, yeah.
I think it's 31.
Is that longer than the Warriors streak of consecutive home wins?
I think so. Well, I think so. Yeah, because they lost. I think they lost one in Oakland during the playoffs.
Right. Oh yeah, so we're counting those. Yeah. Okay.
But I think we're counting those. I don't know, but the Spurs is, I think, the longest, because it goes back to literally almost a year ago, and I remember watching that game too. I watched them lose at home, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. So anyway, Brent, Cavs, Spurs.
I think Spurs. LeBron, he can't beat them by himself, and I think you just look at the team, the lineups and stuff, and you say you've got youth on Cleveland's side and, the best player in the world, but it seems like San Antonio has, for his entire career, had LeBron James' number. Mm-hmm. It just seems like whenever he plays them, he just can't quite do it, or he thinks he has to do it all by himself, and he might have monster games, but you look at the rest of the team and it doesn't work out, or he plays poorly and the rest of the team is just not good enough to do it without him having those type of games. You need both. You need everyone else to up their game and for him to have a big game himself. So I don't think he's going to do it. I'm going to go Spurs, especially at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Spurs too. It's very difficult for whatever reason and whatever the case may be to have San Antonio, or to get them to lose at home. Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to go with San Antonio as well. I think the streak continues. I think that quietly, because of what the Warriors have done, the Spurs have only lost, 6 games as well? I mean, the Spurs are...
which is incredible.
Right, the Spurs
are only
just as good.
5 or 6 games behind
Isn't
Golden
that amazing?
State.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And so... the Spurs, that Kawhi Leonard's playing at an MVP pace or level, I guess would be the better term. LaMarcus Aldridge has been assimilated very smoothly by Greg Popovich, as we all kind of trusted he would do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, aging like fine wine are the three-headed monster of Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan. So
Yeah.
I think the Spurs are tough to beat. I think for the Cavs, they haven't been healthy long enough yet. So
Right.
once they all start to gel together, they'll get better. But they're just not at that point yet.
Right. Fair enough. We'll have, like I said, the rest of these predictions. We got some college basketball ones, some good college basketball ones. Those will be posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/delayofgame. Our podcast special titled Guesswork with Doug Lowry. That will also be on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, as well as YouTube, and our website, the Delay of Game podcast.wordpress.com. Great show, fellas. What a great first Delay of Game. I love this. So much fun. That's going to do it for this show here on this Sunday, January the 10th. We'll see you next week with hopefully some even more exciting NFL topics to discuss, and we'll also see if we can finally try and get into some NBA here. There's quite a lot going on in the NBA, and it needs to be discussed, simply put. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the wonderful week in sports. Enjoy the national championship game on Monday. It's going to be fun.